Due Diligence with Mama Liz is April 2014. There's a separate due diligence addendum that one uses with the agreement contract to buy and sell real estate, residential, which is Form 310 of the South Carolina Association of Realtors, as well as with the agreement contract to buy and sell real estate, the residential/condo, which is Form 300 of the South Carolina Association of Realtors. The general contract form that one uses for land has the due diligence clause built into the contract, so you do not use a separate addendum with that. In the subject finance contract that you use majority of the time, you will elect to use the repair procedure or the due diligence, or you do not use both. It is one or the other. I prefer the due diligence if you are representing your buyer. It's much better protection for your buyer. Also, there's only one date to keep up with you when you're using due diligence addendum, whereas in the repair procedure, there are 4 dates with which to keep up. The due diligence allows your buyer to terminate a contract for any reason. The termination of due diligence does not have to be because of the home inspection. There's a lot of false rumors out there that it can only be because of problems with the home inspection. That is simply not true. It can be for any reason at all. If using the due diligence addendum, you need to write in Section 28 of the contract, which is the special stipulation section, due diligence addendum is attached. You would also list any other addenda here in this spot that you may be attaching to the contract. They should all be listed so that when someone looks at the contract, they know to look for additional forms. Business days. The definition that is in your contract, it actually says business day, a 24-hour period, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, beginning at 10 a.m. and counted from 10 a.m. of the first business day following the appropriate day, which would be the effective date, closing date, stated date, notice of delivery date, whatever date you're referring to or working with in your contract. Business days shall not begin, end, or include any Saturday, Sunday, or federal legal holiday. Again, it says it begins at 10 a.m. and counted from 10 a.m. of the first business day following the appropriate day. So it's 24-hour periods. So this means that due diligence will end at 10 a.m. on the date, termination date. How do you calculate business days? You always begin with a day following the effective date. The day following. There's a business day calculator online, and here is the link for it. It takes you to the website. But when using the calculator, be careful to enter the start date as the next business day, not today's date, after the effective date. The calculator screen has the start date labeled as today, but that start date needs to be based on the next business day after you ratify a contract, not today. On the drop-down under the tab Calculators at the top of your screen, be sure to select Business Date, Exclude Holidays. Do not select the one that says Business Date to Date, excluding holidays. Be sure you select the one that says Business Date, Exclude Holidays. If when you bring it up, it shows a start date and an end date, you're on the wrong screen. Go back and select the other business date. For example, if I just ratified a contract in the morning at 11 a.m. on April the 10th, then my 10 business day deadline would start counting as of the next morning at 10 a.m. By using the above calculator, my 10 business days deadline would be 10 a.m. on April the 25th. So that's counting 10 days in 24-hour periods, but it ends at 10 a.m. on April the 25th. It does not make any difference what time of day you ratify a contract when you're counting your business days. Example 2, if I just ratified a contract at 9 a.m. on April the 10th, then my 10 business day deadline would still start counting as of the next day morning at 10 a.m. By using the above calculator, my 10 business day deadline would be at 10 a.m. on April the 25th. Business days end on 10 a.m. on the termination date. I cannot stress this enough. So many people are under the misimpression that it ends at 5 p.m. It is 10 a.m. What should be inspected during the due diligence period? The home inspection, checking the neighborhood. Maybe your people want to ride the neighborhood and see if it's a place they want to live. Maybe they want to check out the schools. Check on flood insurance. check on homeowners insurance to make sure that these are affordable for them. Maybe they need to check whether or not a big boat that they own can maneuver the creek that's behind the home. All of these kinds of things, just anything that is of a concern to the buyer or buyers. Don't let the termination date slip up on you. Be sure the buyers are satisfied with all concerns other than the home inspection prior to submitting the repair addendum for the home inspection. Prior to. Once the seller signs the repair addendum, agreeing to the items on it, the due diligence period is terminated, and buyers are to proceed to closing per the remainder of the contract. So once that repair addendum is signed by all parties and agreed upon, there's no more due diligence period. It is over. Items listed on the repair addendum do not have to be repaired before the termination date, but simply agreed upon before the termination date of due diligence. You cannot wait until the day before the termination date to be sure that you have the repair addendum back signed. Because what happens if they don't get it back and you run out of time? Remember, the termination date is 10 a.m. on that date. If you do not have the repair addendum back signed and agreed upon by the seller before the termination date, then your buyer needs to either ask for an extension of the due diligence period for a blank number of business days, or they need to terminate the contract. If they don't, then they are proceeding and buying that property as is. And most buyers do not intend to do that. If asking for an extension, this should be done at least 2 days prior to the termination date, just to be sure that the seller signs and gets back to you before the termination date. Remembering again that the termination date is 10 a.m. on that date. If the buyer terminates the contract, please use the termination form that is applied by the South Carolina Association of Realtors. Regarding the terminating the contract, if the buyer terminates and if there is a termination fee listed in the due diligence addendum, that fee should accompany the termination form. The termination fee comes out of the earnest money. Only one party must sign the termination agreement. It is really good to have both sign it, but if the buyer signs and the seller does not have to sign it in order for it to be valid. The termination form just has to be delivered to the agent representing the respective client. How many days should you put in for due diligence? Well, this depends on how busy the home inspectors are, other people that you're going to have do inspections on the property. Normally 10 business days is enough, but not always. You have to use good judgment. How much money should be put as a termination fee? If representing the buyer, normally you would put 0. If you're representing the seller and the buyer is representing and is requesting an unusual long due diligence period, you would ask for money. The amount of money you ask for depends on the length of due diligence period. For example, some people may ask for $500 for keeping the house off the market 15 business days or 20 business days. Somebody might ask for $10,000 to keep it off 60 business days. It just depends on the individual situation. Using zip forms, it may give you trouble typing in 0 on the due diligence addendum, so you may just have to type in the word 0. If you're using due diligence, then you would put NA in the blanks of the repair procedure section of the contract, or you could simply cross out the entire section and have the party's initial. It is critical. Please always have all parties' initial and date all changes on a contract. Initials simply have to have dates so that we can figure out what the effective date of the contract is. Critical. If you have any questions, you can always reach me. I'm always available to answer any questions you may have. You can reach me, liz@AgentOwnedRealty.com is my email address. Not a bullet point in front, but just liz@AgentOwnedRealty.com. Hope this has been helpful.